Good evening, chosen ones. Welcome to Virtual Beelzebub TV. I'm your host, Beelzebub, and welcome back to the pit. So I thought today I'd do something fun, and that is another D&D one-shot. This time I have a plot hook to drop on you it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult encounter than I usually throw at you. So what I had in mind is if there's a lull in the campaign and no one's feeling motivated to do anything, what better way to get them motivated and engaged and get the sort of like spark back after a sort of a dry spell where people aren't all that excited than having someone show up at their doorstep, warn them of a huge threat, and then promptly die. So, here's what I had in mind. There is this dragonborn over here, named Corvix. That's what the artist decided to name him. And Corvix is a fighter samurai. Whatever level your party is at, he should be at least 1, 2, 3 levels below them. And this is important because he runs to them and he goes, "I heard you were adventurers. I've heard of your adventures, but I never thought I'd need your help. But it turns out I do. I tried to take on a monster on my own, but all I managed to do was piss it off and escape with my life. It is called the Corvid, and it is angry, and it is headed this way. And if you do not plan a counter-assault, it could kill a lot of innocent people. I tried, and I failed." And you should then vomit up blood, pass out, and die. Now, if you have a cleric in the party with Revivify, you can bring him back, and you can have an NPC that is lower level than the rest of the party. If he's the same level, why did he run and die? He should not be a main... Him being of assistance is not the main focus of this campaign. He's here to deliver the news, die, and maybe be a hired gun if they need him. So, the party, if they make a nature check, they should be able to know that Corvids are these giant crow creatures that they feed off of both wild animals and humans, especially when they've recently hatched a brood of eggs. They need a lot of food to feed their babies, so they go on these, they cross many, many, many miles to find food, because they need a lot of food, not just for themselves, but for their infants. So they will be attacking things like, what are they called? You know what? I'm gonna have to look it up. D&D Bull. Oryx. That's right. So their primary food source would be the oryx. Now, you can say that maybe it does feed on oryx, and it's only coming here because it was attacked, and it's sort of defending its territory. Maybe you could say the oryx that are nearby this town or village have simply been overhunted, and now the Corvid lacks a primary food source, and that's why it's attacking town. Make an environmental message, if you so choose. But for whatever reason, there aren't enough oryx for it to hunt to feed its young. So, and now that this guy tried to kill it and failed, and these things have excellent vision, it knows exactly where he's going, and he is following close behind. The only reason that Kovix was able to escape is because he knows, maybe he has a teleportation scroll or dimension door or what have you. He had some single-use transportation magic item that got him back over to the party to inform them, and now the Corvid is on its way. It has several miles to fly but they have limited time. A successful nature check should also inform the party that Corvids are attracted to shiny objects. They're just in kind of like dragons in the fact that they collect loot without necessarily understanding why it's valuable. It's just an instinctive desire to collect the shine. So the players, if you have a half decent, reasonably intelligent players, which you very much might not, should put two and two together and realize what they really want to do is create a trap. So the, I guess, air quotes, correct answer to this campaign is that this Corvid is over-leveled. It should be a deadly encounter that they have to prepare for in advance. They have a heads up of a deadly creature, so they have time to put resources together. And the correct answer, as it were, is to put a shiny, put it out in the open, somewhere where they can hide, and ambush the creature either with ranged weaponry, or they can come out from right behind it melee, or maybe they have access to some sort of delayed blast fireball, depending on what level they're at. Ideally, you're going to want to have this creature be a deadly encounter that they prepare a trap for. So maybe a nature check implying that it's attracted to a certain type of bait, like shinies. Maybe a history check will reveal that one of these raided a village and a plucky young group of adventurers managed to trap it and bait it and trap it with a shiny. Throw them a bone. Maybe it's nature, maybe it's survival, maybe it's history. Whatever check they want to make, let them make a check that they're good at, and use the fact that they succeed on that check to imply that what they really need to be doing is laying a trap. And give them, I would give them a lot of freedom to customize their trap. It doesn't have to be delayed blast fireball. It doesn't have to be an ambush. Just they have time to prepare. Now, and obviously this is golden for a rogue because they get advantage on sneak attack, so ambushing is good for them. Now, I would say they have about an hour to prepare maximum. They're not going to have multiple days to go get reinforcements, alert guards from the next town over, or whatever. Like, they have limited time. And it should arrive at night for dramatic effect. They should be told in the day, and by the time the sun sets, this thing appears. You really, even if you don't usually engage in purple prose, I would highly encourage you to do so with this creature. If you don't have the ability or the desire to show them the image, describe how it's like its feathers look moist and black, as if dripping with ink. Describe how all these black dots you see on the image are eyes looking at the party from multiple directions. Its beak sharpened to a needle's point. Its waist thin, gaunt, and starved. It looks hungry, it looks angry, and it looks evil. And just for dramatic effect, I would have the moon turn like blood red as it approaches, like the moon itself is warning the party of its approach, and then it flies over and eclipses the blood moon, and there's like a silhouette of the Corvid right before it dives down and starts raiding the city and eating its inhabitants and livestock for food. I think that would be super cool. So ideally, the Corvid, as it comes down to attack, should see the shiny, should see the bait, whatever, and swoop down. The party spring their trap. They all come out. It's an ambush. They get this surprise round with a whole bunch of attacks. And what I would do is, rather than actually just look up a stat block for a strong flying monster like a Brock or whatever, which you can absolutely do. In fact, I'll pull it up right now. Bloody Brock D&D Beyond. So you'll probably be tempted to just use rock stats and call it a day. Well, the problem is that like this is challenge rating 6, and I don't know what level your party is going to be at. They've got spores, which doesn't really fit this creature. Maybe you want to reflavor that as like maybe some sort of like ink or animated feathers or some sort of black dust that comes off of its wings every time it beats its wings that could cause a poison effect. I definitely wouldn't leave it to be spores. Stunning Screech is fine, magic resistance is fine, but I highly suggest that you tailor the rock to fit your party's level so that it's a deadly encounter, because rocks are relatively straightforward to take out. You just got to pelt it with ranged fire until you drop its HP and try not to get poisoned. So, what I would do is rather than just using like the 104 or what the normal hit HP for a creature of the proper CAR rating would be, I would instead I would prepare in advance for this creature. Take a look at your party's average damage, tally that up, and make sure that no matter what happened, even if they all hit round 1 and they all do max damage round 1, that it's still going to survive. I would actually go out of your way to do that math to make sure that even if everything hits, everything does max damage, it's not going down in round 1. Because again, the ambush is supposed to be an advantage, not a round 1 insta-kill. When an intelligent party has time to prepare, a round 1 insta-kill is very likely. Actively try to avoid it. Plan ahead. And honestly, the rock is pretty decent, making 2 attacks, 1 with beak, 1 with claws. That's perfectly fine as it is. Just change up the damage to fit your party, change up the HP, and make sure it's something that is a proper threat for your party. And honestly, I would add some sort of like legendary action it has. Like, this should be a deadly encounter, and even if it's not technically a legendary creature, even if they're like level 3, it should feel like this is some sort of like arcane legendary creature, like a proper boss fight. So I would even give it a legendary action that it can take outside of its own turn. So at the end of someone's turn, it can maybe let's see. What speaks to me? What am I inspired by in the moment? Let's see. I would, and I'm just thinking this off the top of my head. I didn't even think about this before I started recording. I really like the idea that those little balls on its wings are eyes. But what if they also were like projectile weapons? Like, it would flap its wings. A few of these spheres would disengage and sort of, fly through the air, home in towards the target, and explode in like a 10-foot radius. And everyone within range of these multitudes of these black spheres, which all sort of home in on one or multiple targets. Actually, let's stat this out. Every time it legendary action, it flaps its wings and produces 1d4 black spheres, which can target one or separate target creatures, and each of them explodes in a 10-foot radius, requiring a dex save for half damage. And this is specifically so that it has the ability to threaten all of your party members, so that everyone, since it's only safe for half damage, no one should be leaving this encounter without losing at least some HP. This should be a out-of-the-blue, really hard boss fight. So, it's got this multi-attack that it can throw out when it's not even its turn, that you can use to target people who haven't been damaged by its beak or its talons yet. So, I feel like by having this creature just sort of appear out of the blue, and this is just a creature that lives in the wilderness and there are more of them, it kind of raises the stakes of the world. It makes the world itself feel more dangerous, and that at any moment one of these bastards or one of the many, many other D&D monsters are just lurking around the corner. And this guy was an adventurer just like you. He tried to fight one of these things and he died. So if you're not careful and you don't plan ahead, you will also die. So I feel like this one-shot is perfect for when there's a lull in the campaign, or if the party is getting a little too cocky, things have been a little too easy. You can kind of just sort of spring this out on them out of the nowhere. Tension ratchets up to 11 for a brief moment, like, oh my god, there's like a city-ending threat out of nowhere, and we just gotta deal with it or die. You know, I think that's the sort of thing that you want to spike your campaign with every once in a while, just so things don't get dull and repetitive, and like, oh, you grab another quest, you go to another location, you kill some more goblin, blah, blah, blah. You know, maybe you don't have that problem, maybe you do. This is just something that you can think about, add to your campaign, and modify as you see fit. Like you saw me improvising on the spot. I feel like this is a very inspiring picture that inspires your mind to think of a bunch of nasty, horrible things it can do to your party. And honestly, the numbers themselves are, as with any homebrew, are just tailored to what challenges the players. And that's all I had to say about that. I appreciate you tuning in, and I will see you next time.
Pack up your sins and go to the devil in Hades. You'll meet the finest gentlemen and the finest of ladies. They'd rather be down below than up above. Hades is full of thousands of Joneses and Browns, Houlihan's, Cohens and Brady's. You'll hear a heavenly tune, the wind to the devil, because the jazz band started picking it, put a trick in it, a jazzy kick in it. They've got a couple of old reformers in heaven, making them go to bed at 11.